Hey there, scholars, and welcome to another video today. Thinking about that idea of place value, right? These foundations that we're using to understand really our number sense and what numbers mean. So with place value today, we're going to be looking at kind of the three forms in which you can represent numbers, right? We're going to talk about these three different forms that numbers can be represented, right? So one way we can represent numbers is what we call standard form. We'll talk about what that means. That's the one I think most people know without realizing they actually know it. We can also look at expanded form. Very helpful in so many other things that we do in math. So expanded form is really important. And then the last one would be word form. And that one is pretty straightforward. It's how we take numbers and we write them into words. So today we're going to explore each and one of these. So let's go ahead and run down the line. So we're going to go ahead and start off. What color did we use? Purple. So let's go ahead and start off with our standard form. So standard form. Standard form, like I said, is the one that most people know without realizing they know it because it is how we just see all numbers. So standard form is literally the way that we just write a number, right? And I'm not talking about write it with words. I just mean literally using digits. So if we had a number like, I don't know, 173, well, if we wanted to write this in standard form, you ready for this? This is crazy. If I wanted to write this in standard form, I would write 173. That's the standard form. That's it. So that's how standard form really works. If we take a number and we write it out as it is, that's its standard form. So if I had the number 38 and I wanted to write that again in standard form, guess what? Guess what? 38. So there's standard form. Now, we'll loop back to this as we go because it's going to be really helpful to be thinking about how we go back and forth between the forms, but really the most basic right away, standard form, write it as it is. So the next one we're going to look at is expanded form. So let's explore expanded form. Now, expanded form really does mean what it says as well, right? The idea of expanded, to expand something out, to make it, I guess, if you will, longer, taking up more space. I don't want to say larger because it doesn't change its value, but we understand expanded form based on all that knowledge that we've done before around value and place value. So let's take 186 as another number, and we want to write this out, right? So here we go. This right here, 186, that's the standard form. Now we want to write it in expanded form. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at each place value and write it out in terms of the value of each digit. So if I have the expanded form and I think about the 6, the value of the 6 is 6, and the value of the 8 here is 80, and the value of this 1 is 100, right? These are those values. Then if I was to write this in an expanded form, I would just write 100 plus 80 plus 6. This is your expanded form. And it is exactly the same thing. These are equivalent, right? These are equal to each other. It's the same thing. 186 in standard form is written with 100 plus 80 plus 6 in expanded form. Okay, so let's just practice that. I think that's always the best way, is we just kind of explore these numbers and think about what that is. Let's just take 32. Okay, so again, here's the standard form. Let's write that in an expanded form. Well, 2 is equal to 2. 3 is a value of 30. So that's just 30 plus 2. There's the expanded form. Okay, so this is how we can kind of jump back and forth between numbers, expanded form and standard form. So again, we went back here, and let's say we're back in the standard form world, and someone said, you know what, can you take this number and write it in standard form? Oh yeah, well, I'm just going to put those together. 263. Right? There's the standard form of that. There's the expanded form. So that's where we can really look at numbers going back and forth between forms. Now the last one, I'm going to jump back. I forget what color I use. Okay. So the last one we're talking about is word form. Right? So word form is exactly that. It is writing words out, it's writing numbers out as words, right? So we'll take a number and first we're going to write it in standard form. Let's take 86. Well, I read what I say and I write what I say. So 86, we're going to write that in word form. 86. Boom, done. That's it, right? So really when you're thinking about word form, it is understanding the spelling of words. And it's okay to look those up. Like, don't panic. You don't have to have it all memorized. Find a form. A lot of times they're really cool on the internet. You can find like how all these digits are written out in word form to help you, right? But really, we just want to go through that. Now, there's a couple things to kind of help with that, because one thing that helps is when you get beyond one period of numbers, right? We talked about periods, those 3 digits of numbers. So like, I don't know, 3,872. Again, I always like to remind people that if there's a comma, right? If there's a comma in your number, there will be a comma in your word form. And again, it's how we read this. So if I look and I read this as 3, and then the comma tells me that period, 1,000, right? 3,000. And then I just look at the rest. So I have 3,872. So I'm going to write that 872. So that would be the word form of this, 3,872, 3,872. And like I said, if there's a comma in your number, there's a comma in your word. So again, notice that 3,000, comma, 3, comma, 872. So that's one thing to really keep in mind. So let's just look at one more of those. I think it's pretty good. So let's go 42,019, right? So if I read it, I can write it. And then we just think about where those commas are and what are the words. So I always say just read to the comma first. So I see 42. So I'm going to write that. So 42, right? 42, and then there's a comma, so it's 42,000, comma, and then the last part I just see is 19. So there it is, 42,019, 42,019, right? We're writing it all out in word form. Let's do 31,299. So again, read to the comma, 31. That's where I'm going to start. 31. Then I see that comma, that's thousands. So 31,000, comma, and then the second part, 299. 299. Okay. So those are our 3 forms. So let's kind of start putting those all together. Let's play around with that and put those together. So we think about, let's see, we can say standard, expanded. This is going to be a bit of a challenge to fit this on here, but we're going to do it in Word. Right, so here's our 3 forms. And then we can just take a number and put it into all of those forms. Let's say if I started here, I said boom, boom, boom. Okay, well, there's the expanded form. I have a 100, I have an 80, I have a 9. So if I put those together, right, standard form, that's just 189. Again, like we said, expanded. See how we expanded it out? We just kind of pulled out all those place values. And then I think about the word form, 189. 1. And what I read, I can write 189. Notice there's no end in here. A lot of times people say 189. That's actually not what this says. It's 189. So that's a little something to keep in mind. We'll talk more later as we get along and all of this stuff. You'll really see why. Let's do another one. We'll write it in standard form first. Great. Right. So if I can read it, I can write it. I can also think about it as an expanded form. I see 413. I'm gonna write that as a word first. So 413. That's it. Done. Notice no comma, so no comma, and then expand it out. So 400 plus 10 plus 3. So that's really what we do with our 3 forms. And I want you to be thinking about that. And again, knowing Schoology, wow. Knowing Schoology, there's going to be a few quizzes to go along with this. And feel free to come back and look at this video if you can't remember, as well as ask questions in the comment section. And we will be able to get back to you on all of that. So thank you. I hope these 3 forms make sense. And just remember, with anything in math, just continue to practice. Don't worry. Don't stress. It will all make sense the more that we practice.